Good morning, all. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, in digital image processing, we have seen these few parts in the last lecture. We saw how a digital image is represented horizontally and vertically. There will be pixels. Pixel is the smallest element that can be shown in an image, and we saw that the pixel has a uniform size everywhere. It's a kind of square box which is tightly spaced in a complete space to make an image, right? So we saw fundamental steps in a digital image processing yesterday. We also saw some elements of digital image processing, such as acquisition tool, that is camera, then a few other things we have seen in the last lecture. We saw the stages of image processing like this, where we saw the image acquisition stage, where we acquire the image in a digital form. Then we enhance that image uh, to remove some of the noises or to make it sharp or smooth. Then we saw restoration, where we use some mathematical algorithms or mathematical tools to remove the irregularities such as horizontal and vertical cross lines or salt and pepper noise and so on, which are having or which are following some kind of mathematical probability distribution. So we remove those kind of noises by using image restoration. Then we use morphological processing. I gave you an example yesterday where Rahul written in the Cursiolipi, the letter Rahul written in Cursiolipi, we can separate out individual characters RAHUL by using first morphological thinning, where the connection between R and A will become narrow. The narrow connection will become broken eventually if I apply again and again thinning operation. Then R and A will become separate, and we can individually get that separate characters R, then A as an individual elements, and that is called as segmentation. And from that individual character, which is handwritten R, handwritten A, we use the object recognition stage to identify what that character is. So machine will have stored values of alphabets A to Z in a small letter as well as capital letter. Machine will compare that handwritten R with all the alphabets, and it will recognize that yes, it is a capital R. Similarly, it will do for another character. It will identify it is small a, and then it will print everything on the screen, and that is called as representation and description. So few other steps involved in the digital image processing are color image processing, where we individually apply all these steps on the red color, uh, on the green color, and on the blue color. So there will be three different layers, as you can imagine. You can imagine these are three different layers which are put together makes a complete color image. You can think of white color. White color is made up of uh, seven different other colors. So you can think of, when you try to process a white color, you will have to process those seven colors individually. But we can use a color model where we can generate those seven colors by using these three primary colors, which are red, green, and blue. So basically, these are the only colors which are necessary to represent any other color. Okay, we will learn this in the color model later, but this is just a brief introduction. And another thing is the image compression, where we saw that to store an image, the requirement can be reduced. Storage requirement can be reduced by application of image compression. Now we'll see what are the different elements of visual perception. Now this is a little biological topic, and I hope everyone have understood and everyone have learned somewhere in their syllabus structure of human eye. Those who have learned science and those who have come from 12th standard, they definitely might have seen what is the structure of human eye. Those who haven't learned science, they also might have read somewhere or came across what is the structure of eye. And if you have came across, you might be knowing this, but otherwise you can read it simply. So the field of digital image processing is built on the foundation of mathematical and probabilistic formulation, but human intuition and analysis play the main role to make the selection between various techniques. So basically, we can say that human intervention is necessary while analyzing any image, and that's why we say that the image processing, the field image processing, is a subjective. Uh, Meaning of this is subjective means from subject to subject, the analysis may be different. For example, if I click three images of the same scenery, and if I show to some set of people and ask them which one of these three is a better image, then the views may be different. Some person may say the first image is good, some may say the second image is good, and maybe all of them can think that third image is bad. So here third image is bad. All of them are thinking that third image is bad. Okay, so that is a coincidence. But some of them are saying first image is good, and some of them are saying second image is good. This kind of scenario is called as subjective. So some may like it, some may not like it. So it depends on person who is judging that image, and that's why image processing is called as subjective. So the operations that we are going to do on an image may not be suitable for all kinds of images and may not be uh, uh, accepted by all the people who are judging that or using that image. So there is no solution which is one size fits all. There is no solution in a digital image processing which is having a kind one size fits all. So, if some company is processing image in some way, some other company may process the same image in some other way. They may not think that the way first company is processing is better. And as a viewer like us, as a viewer like us, we also may not think that everything is better in the current processing stage. We may think that this should this should have been done in some other way so that the image will look more better. So there are conflicts everywhere, and that's why this topic is called as subjective topic. There is no standard by which image we can say that this image is better or worse. So it's totally depend on visual judgments of a user. In human perception, the eyes acts as a sensor. So as a judge, we use our eyes to uh, look at that image. So our eyes works as a sensor, like a camera, and the neurons acts as a connecting cable, and the brain acts as a processor to process that image. So the basic elements of visual perception are the structure of eye, the image formation in the eye, and the brightness, adaptation, and discrimination. These three things are necessary in a visual perception. Suppose if some person has little blurred vision, maybe having a spec, then the judgments without spec may vary, and judgment after wearing spec may vary. So that's how I am discussing that. How image is formed in eye, that also matters. So if you apply little less stress on your eyes, the image may look blurred. If you apply more stress, the image may look more clear, and so on. and the brightness adaptation and discrimination. Brightness adaptation and discrimination means how you can discriminate between the brightness levels. The capability of person discriminating between different brightness levels may vary. Okay, so some may identify brightest to brightest color and darkest to darkest color, and some other person may not do the way how the first person is doing. So this is how our eye looks like. So I am not going in much detail, much biological detail of a structure of a human eye. I will just discuss the points which are necessary in the digital imaging, digital image processing point of view. So you can read that theory part again if you want to know more about the structure of a eye. So this part, small opening, this small opening through which the light enters is called as a pupil, as it is written here. And inside, it is filled with some kind of fluid. This 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 part, this part is filled with some kind of fluid, which is watery fluid, and it is called as aqueous humor. Okay, the outer covering over the eye is called as a cornea, and on this side here from this point the uh, stimulus will be carried towards brain through the nerves. So it's like this is a electronic equipment having a lens placed here. So this works like a lens. This small structure, this works like a lens. From lens, the data or the light is incident on this part. Suppose light enters from here, and it forms an image on this particular region, and this acts as a photosensitive uh, element, and it will generate some kind of energy, and that energy which is converted into some kind of electric impulses, and those impulses are transmitted through the cable which is called as optic nerve, and that impulse will be carried towards brain so that we can perceive what we are looking at, so that we can uh, get an idea of what current scene in front of eye is. Okay, so basically human eye is a slightly asymmetrical sphere. As we saw here, it is not a complete round shape, it is asymmetrical sphere with an average diameter up to 25 millimeter. So it is diameter 20 millimeter to 25 millimeter. So the total width or vertical height of eye may not be greater than 2.5 centimeter. Okay, it has a volume of 6.5 cubic centimeters. So the volume, internal volume of a eye is 6.5 centimeter cube. So 6.5 in a width, 6.5 in a breadth, and 6.5 in a, sorry, not like that. Height, width, and breadth. If you do collectively, the volume of that spherical structure may occupy 6.5 centimeter cube. It's like if it is a box, if it is a box, then that that box that box having 1 centimeter breadth, 1 centimeter wide, and 6.5 centimeter height. What volume this box will have? 6.5 centimeter height, 1 centimeter in a width, and 1 centimeter in a breadth. So what volume this box will have will be 6.5 centimeter cube. So the same amount of volume our eye will have, but the shape is not box, it is a spherical, but it is asymmetrical sphere. The eye is just like a camera. The external object is seen as the camera taking the picture of any object. Light enters the eye through the small hole which is called as a pupil. I have already shown you that. A black looking aperture having a quality of contraction of the eye when exposed to the bright light and is focused on the retina, which is like a camera film. So, so this part which is shown here, this this part which is called as a lens of an eye, this has a ability to contract. This has ability to contract. As you can see, it is a lens of an eye. When a bright light is incident on it, it can contract. When a weaker light is incident on it, it can retract. Uh, so accordingly, the image will be formed on this particular part depending on what kind of light is incident. One minute. Okay, let's continue. So the lens, wait a minute. The lens, iris, and cornea are nourished by the clear fluid, which is known as the anterior chamber. The fluid flows from the ciliary body to the pupil and is absorbed through the channels in the angle of anterior chamber. The delicate balance of aqueous production and absorption controls pressure within the eye. So as you can see here, the lens, the the cornea, and the pupil. Okay, so iris, cornea, and pupil. These three things, this, and this, will be encased inside of some kind of watery fluid that provides a nourishment to these three parts. So that's why our eye looks always watery, because there is a watery liquid which is used for nourishment of these three parts, and this is absorbed through the uh, membrane, and thus it will be always available like our saliva, and hence the pressure will be always maintained within the eye. The cones in the eye number varies between 6 to 7 million. So here on the back side, this part, where the image is formed, will have cones and rods. The cones vary between 6 to 7 millions, which are highly sensitive to color. So the cones are responsible for uh, identification of the color. The human visualizes the colored image in a daylight because of the presence of cones. The cone vision is also called as protopic or the bright light vision. The vision because of cones is called as a protopic vision, where we can identify and discriminate between different colors. And this is the amount of cones these are available inside eye. You can imagine 6 to 7 number of cones. So 6 to 7 million number of cones. So it's in a huge quantity, so that we can identify each individual color. Similarly, we have rods which are in the number of 75 to 150 million. So you can imagine these are much in a larger amount than that of the cones, and are distributed over the retinal surface. The part on which the image is formed is called as a retina, the internal part. This, as you can see here, the screen, you can imagine as if it is a screen on which the image is formed. It is called as a retina. The rods are not involved in the color vision, and they are sensitive only to the low levels of illumination. So they are not involved in the color image identification. They are involved in the low level of illumination. So they are dealing with the brightness levels only, which are at the lower end. And for higher level brightness and color sensing, the cones are useful. The image formation in eye looks like this. I think I messed up with this. Wait a minute. When the lens of eye focuses on the image of the outside world onto the light sensitive membrane in the back of the eye called as retina, the image is formed. So as I already said how image is formed, so the lens of eye focuses light on the photoreceptive cells of the retina, which detects the photons of the light and responds by producing the neural responses. I have already discussed that when the light falling on this object reflects and goes to the eye, and when it enters through pupil and it is incident on the lens, and where lens will change its own dimension, it can contract or expand depending on the brightness level, and it can adjust the formation of the image on the back side on which uh, on this retina, and on this retina the image will be formed. And how it will be formed? The light will be incident on that retina, and retina is kind of a photoreceptive element. It has the photoreceptive cells which will generate some kind of neural impulses, and those impulses will be transmitted through the neurons to the brain. The distance between the lens and the retina is about 17 millimeter. So as you can see, as I already said, the diameter of the human eye varies between 17 millimeter to 25 millimeter. So the minimum can be up to 17 millimeter, and the focal length is approximately 14 millimeter to 17 millimeter. Focal length means between the image and where the uh, incident light uh, passes through a common point, that is called as a focal length of the lens. Focal length is up to 17 millimeter. Minimum it can be 14 millimeter. So in some scene, what will happen? Suppose this is your eye. This is your eye. Then in some scenarios, what will happen? The distance between this point and this point will be farther, and in some scenario, you can imagine as if this is your eye, the distance between lens and the retina reduced. So when it is reduced, minimum it can become up to 14 millimeter. So the image will be exactly formed here, and when it is more, it can be up to 17 millimeter. Image will be formed here. So the clear image will be formed. I'm saying is clear image will be formed. So this is a scenario where the clear image will be formed when we apply more pressure on our eyes, and when we make our eyes more wide open. When we stress our eyes, the image will be formed with this kind of structure where focal length is reduced. And when we apply less pressure on our eye, the image will be formed like this at a larger distance, and focal length will be increased. So this is a scenario when we look at the bright light such as sunlight. You can imagine as if you are looking at some scene from shades. You you apply less stress on your eyes, and when you go in sunlight and when you look at that same scene, you will have to apply more stress on your eyes. So when you apply stress on your eyes, what basically you are doing is you are actually adjusting the focal length of your eye so that the clear image is formed on your camera. As if you are operating a digital camera, hardware digital camera. What you basically do is you rotate some knobs so that you can adjust the focal length of the lens. And that same thing you do in the human eye by applying the stress on your eyes. So we discussed uh, uh, image formation. We discussed the structure of a eye. Now, the last thing is brightness, adaptation, and discrimination. Brightness, adaptation, and discrimination. The digital images are displayed as a discrete set of intensities. The eye's ability to discriminate black and white at the different intensity level is an important consideration in presenting the image processing result. So as I said, its ability to discriminate between the black color and white color matters the visual results. The person it varies from person to person. Some may discriminate between pure black and pure white. Some may discriminate. Suppose this is some color, black color, and this is some white color, pure white and pure black color. Some may have ability to look at this black and this white. Some may have ability to look at this level and this level only. So they have ability to discriminate between only colors between this gray level and this gray level. This will be little brighter, this will be little darker. Okay? This is little darker gray level and this is little brighter gray level, and they cannot go beyond that limit because of their physical inabilities. So they cannot look at this pure black, they cannot look at this pure white. So this is called as the ability to discriminate between the colors. They cannot discriminate between this color and this color, because even if the actual image has this color, they will perceive that as a this color, because they cannot even see this. It's like a person, night blind person uh, cannot look anything in the night, or in other sense, a color blind person cannot discriminate between two different colors, such as I forgot the different colors which color blind person cannot discriminate. I think red and green, he cannot discriminate between red and green. Even if you show him a red color, he will say it is a green. Even if you show him a green color, he will say it is a red. So in his perspective, both red and green are same. Similarly, here in this person's perspective, both this color and this color are same, and that is this color. Okay, but actually it is this color or this brightness. So the range of light intensity level to which the human visual system can adapt is of the order of 10 raised to 10, from the scotopic threshold to the glare limit. The meaning of this is, scotopic threshold means the level at which a person cannot even see anything, and the glare limit is where a person cannot discriminate between the full bright and full dark color which is available at a time in the scenery, and because of that he cannot actually perceive what actually a scene is. For example, when you drive a car, and when you drive a car in the night time, and the car in front of you has a headlights on, and he does not turn on a dipper, then what will happen is the light incident on your eyes will make a complete blank scene in front of you. Why is it so? Because you are looking at the darkness everywhere, you are looking at the darkness everywhere, and suddenly the complete bright light is incident on your eyes, and the total dark and total bright, you try to look at these two colors at the same time, and hence you cannot discriminate and you cannot analyze what is the scene in front of you. That is the reason you cannot look at the road. That is the reason why road becomes invisible for you. So this kind of challenges are there in brightness adaptation and discrimination. So if these all things are good, then you can see the perception of the image, visual perception of the image will be good. That means if the eye is good, if the image formation in the eye is proper, and if it is not proper, and you will have to use some specs or some external lenses to uh, make image properly form on your retina. If it is not forming on your retina, then you will not be able to see clearly. And the third thing is, if you are good at discriminating between different brightness levels, and if all this is good, the visual perception will be good. So everyone cannot have the same ability, and everyone cannot have the same features, and that's why I said that the image processing is actually a subjective task. So obviously there will be few things which everyone likes, such as if I remove the noise and if I make the image, if I try to make the image more better, everyone likes that the noise removed image looks better. But if you try to keep on removing the noise, and if you remove the noise with very small amount, it may not be even noticeable to all that whether the noise is removed actually or not. And there comes the subjective criteria. If there is large amount of noise, everyone can notice that the noise has been removed. So we have finished with that. Next, the simple image formation model. The example of image formation I have already explained. There will be a source which is generating a light. There will be a source which is generating a light. That light will be incident on the image. Some of the light will be reflected, and that reflected light will go to the camera or the eye, and from there some of the light will go to the camera or eye, and from there the image will be formed. So it depends on the light incident, which is called as I, and light reflected, which is called as R. So intensity of these two incident and reflected light will define the image form. So let's say f of xy is the intensity at a point x comma y. So for example, let's analyze what is the image formed at this point. So it will be dependent on what is the incident light at this point and what is the reflected light from this point. I hope you understood. If I want to analyze what is the intensity at point x comma y, this is say point x comma y. I'm sorry, x comma y. This is the point x comma y. So at this point, intensity is denoted by f. At this point, the incident illumination is called as I of x comma y, and at this point, the reflected light is called as R of x comma y. Okay, so the amount of source illumination at that point is I of x comma y. Amount of source reflected because of the transmittivity is called as R of x comma y. And we always see that I incident light always varies. Incident intensity can vary between 0 and infinity, and the reflected light can be from 0 to 1. The reason of this is uh, either no light will be reflected, that is called as a zero reflection, and all of the light is reflected, that is called as a one reflection. So transmitted light and reflected light, if both of them are same, then we get reflectivity equal to 1. So either you can have no reflection or you can have total reflection. Total reflection is represented by 1. Or you can have 50% reflection. So 50% reflection means what? Reflectivity is 0.5. Okay. So that's why the R varies between 0 and 1, and incident light can have any intensity. So in some case, if I say incident light is totally reflected, incident light is totally reflected. So what will be intensity observed at that point x comma y? Suppose incident light has intensity 100, and I am saying that it is totally reflected. Totally reflected means what? R is equal to 1. So 100 into 1 is 1. So if all of the light which is incident here is reflected towards camera, then what camera will read? Camera will read that f is equal to 100 into 1, that is 100. And that's why the intensity at point x comma y is equal to 100. If I say uh, at, at x comma y, light incident is 100, but only half of the light is reflected. Means what? R is equal to zero point 0.5. So what is intensity observed at x comma y? 100 into 0 0.5, that is equal to 50. Hope you understood. Please type in a chat box whether you understood this. The simple image formation model. It depends on incident light and reflected light. Incident light intensity may vary between 0 and infinity, reflected intensity or reflectance may vary between 0 and 1. Please type in a chat box. One person has understood. Others? So these are some examples of reflectance of some different materials. As we all know, from snow, when we look at snow in the sunlight, we feel very bright light. Why is it so? Because the reflectance of snow is very high, that is very close to 1, as you can see, 0.93. That means whatever light is incident on the snow, 93% of the light is totally reflected, and only 0.07% light is absorbed. You can imagine, and that's why it looks difficult to stare at the snow, and we cannot look at the more time continuously or at certain point on a snow. So snow has a very high reflectance. If we look at the black velvet, if you incident a more amount of light on it, then still it can reflect only 0.01%. Meaning of this is 99% of the light is completely absorbed by the black velvet. And similarly, many other materials will have different intensities as shown here, and because of that, the image will be formed. So, for example, suppose I show you greenery here, and on that greenery there is a table made of wooden, and there is an apple kept on this. Apple kept on this. So, what will happen? The green color, the grass will absorb some amount of light, will reflect some amount of light. This wood will absorb some amount of light, it will reflect some amount of light, and this apple also will absorb some amount of light and it will reflect some amount of light. And the amount of light which is absorbed and amount of light which is reflected by all of these materials are different, and because of this, the image formation model that we learned here, the intensity f which is observed by the camera at different points will be different, and hence if you mark those intensity levels in some kind of matrix, you will see that the matrix will have different values at different points, and accordingly the store binary values for those intensities will be different. So for example, here the grass has the reflectance more than the table. That means, suppose out of 100, suppose everywhere the 100 intensity light is falling, then out of 100, grass may reflect around say 60, and on this table anywhere, every point may be reflecting, let's say, only 40. So accordingly, the stored values of the matrix elements will be more in the grass part, and the stored values will be less in the table part. And if you convert all of them in the digital values, uh, like binary numbers, then that will be called as a stored binary image. And if you convert that binary image back to the display on the scene, the uh, procedure will be exactly opposite. You convert that binary number to equivalent decimal, and you convert that decimal accordingly to the amount of intensity, and you show that intensity level on the screen, and that will look like a image. So if you do this for the color image, then you will take intensities in three different planes, which is red, green, and blue, and you will be storing three different matrices, one for R, other for green, and other for blue. It's like you pass this scenery through different papers. I hope everyone has seen some uh, decorative paper which is called a gelatin paper. If you look through the gelatin paper of a red color, the intensities perceived will be different, If you look through the green gelatin paper, the intensities perceived will be different, and through the blue color, intensities perceived will be different. And the same thing is done by the camera. It will look at the intensities through these different filters: red filter, green filter, and blue filter. And it will store three different matrices for red, green, and blue. And accordingly, the storage requirement will be more. And when it is generating the image, it will take red, green, and blue matrices together, and it will combine, and it will make a proper image. So in more detail, we will see this later. So I have already explained the image acquisition process earlier. I have showed you that suppose I am acquiring image of this particular scene here, and let's see what happens to the image pixels on this particular line which is drawn from A to B. I'm not talking about complete image. I'm talking only about the pixels which are lying on the image between points A and B. Okay. So as you can see, this part has a total white color, and that's why all the pixels which are lying here will have intensity level very high. So as you can see, this part has very high intensity, and all the intensity levels are tightly spaced, and that's why we can imagine as if it is a continuous image, and it is having a continuous intensity white intensity from A to here at this point. Okay. Then from here to here, if you imagine, if you observe carefully on the boundaries here, on the boundaries there will be darker shades here and here, and at the middle there is a little brighter shade, isn't it? So darker shade means lesser intensity, and brighter shade towards center the intensity is more. As you can see, towards center the intensity is more. So at the boundaries, you will have darker shades. As you move towards center, the intensity is more. As you move again away from the center, the intensity is again reduced. Then from this point onwards, this point is same as this point. Okay, and this point is same as this point. So after this point, again you can see there is a pure white color, and that means very high intensity, which is same as intensity which is observed on the left side. So here and here intensities are almost same, which are pure white color, and that's why high intensity. So the figure A, that is a pure image that we see, a continuous image which has continuous white and gray shades. Image B is a scanned version of that image, which shows a pure white intensity and variation in intensity. And the third image, I am trying to convert that continuous intensity to some discrete intensity levels, because if I try to show all the intensity levels by the binary number, then the storage requirement will be more. Why? Because if I try to show the four intensity levels, I need 2 bits: 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. If I try to show the 8 intensity levels, I need 3 bits. If I try to show 16 intensity levels, I need 4 bits. And in a continuous image, I can have infinite intensity levels. So if I try to show the infinite intensity levels, I will need to use infinite bits. And that will create problem in the storage. And hence I want to convert that image to some finite level of intensity values, and that's why you can see these square boxes. These square boxes are the intensity levels that we are trying to use for storing the image. Okay, so that I can have only finite number of intensities which can be stored by using finite number of bits, and that is called as quantization. So first step, where we use only finite number of intensities for storing the image, is called as a sampling. And the second step, where after sampling, we bring those samples to only some finite level. So as you can see here, there is a one level, this is one level, this is other level, and this is other level, this is other level, and this is other level. So I tried to convert this sampled image into some other image which has only some fixed level of intensity levels. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 intensity levels. Now we can see there are only 8 intensity levels, and hence it will become easier to store that image by using 3 bits. Okay, we will continue from here in the next lecture, and we'll stop now. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, you can leave it. Thank you.